My name is Dan Weber, and I'll be your moderator for this evening. I was a member of the Fairmont City Council for 8 years, and I enjoyed those 8 years very much, and because I had an opportunity to serve the citizens of Fairmont and the members of the city government. I've always supported the police department, the fire department, and all the people who are working for the city of Fairmont. I encourage all of you running who will be elected to use good stewards of the city's finances, be a good steward of the property of the city of Fairmont for the near and for the far future, to promote the transparency in city government, to be a productive member of city council, to participate and represent your constituents and always vote your conscience. The purpose of this forum is to provide information to the public and to the voters in order for them to have a choice on the candidates they support. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to present and then be asked 1 to 5 questions by the panel with 1 minute to respond. The members of this panel are Royce Layden, Dawn Downs, Mary Jo Thomas, Matt Deleghetti, and Ashley Islam. Ari Islam. After the city, you will have 2 minutes to speak and then a minute to rebut. After the City Council presentations, we may discuss the Marion County School Levy, the Volunteer Fire Department Levy, and the Human Rights Commission. And now, District 1 candidates are, first, Marcella Yarmchuk. Marcella, you come up and do your 2 minutes. And we have a timekeeper also right in front of us, so pay attention to that.
Thank you. Panelists, fellow citizens, it's an honor to be a candidate for District 1 in Fairmont, West Virginia. I've lived here my entire life. My children were raised here. I've worked here, belonged to organizations here, and I love Fairmont. I want to help Fairmont be a better place, and I think there's no better way to do that than for me to represent you. I did basically the same thing when I worked for the FBI for 20 years. I was employee advisory group representative, which meant that fellow employees were able to bring concerns to me and solutions, and I was able to take them to management to help solve some of the problems that they were facing daily. And I'd like to do that for you, the citizens of Fairmont. I'm retired, I have time, I have your best interest. I want Fairmont to be a better place. We have lots going for us. We have a college, we have a hospital, we have the river, we have activities, we have wonderful people here, churches, parks. We have a lot to share and to promote, and I'd like to do that on your behalf. If there are people here who have concerns now that they feel have not been addressed, I hope that whichever one of us is chosen as your representative will be able to do exactly what I've outlined for you. Take those concerns to the city of Fairmont, because you know the old saying, if you don't know it's broke, you can't fix it. And some of the people who are able to fix the situation may not be aware, but you who live with a pothole in front of your house or somebody cutting grass past the noise level time can take that concern to the proper people and have it addressed. I would look forward to the candidates' speeches today. Good luck to all of us. Thank you.
All right, now we'll have a question from the panel, starting with Ari.
This is what's happened when you're first. You don't know you're supposed to stay here.
for coming tonight. What do you think is Fairmont's biggest strength, and how do you plan on using that to make the city better?
I believe that our biggest strength is our people. We have people who are determined to let others know what a great place we live in Fairmont.
Royce Linden, second. Leiden, sorry.
How have you been preparing or volunteering in the city?
I have been volunteering in the city probably my entire life. I was raised in the church. My mother was a deaconess, so I went with her when she visited the sick. I helped prepare communion, helped mop the floor when the church flooded. So I started out as a child, and I've been volunteering my entire life. I've received some very nice awards for being a volunteer, and that's something that I'm proud of.
Don Downs?
Marcel, I'm kind of interested in the motivation for your running at this point. You've been around, as you said, a long, long time. What, well, at least 15, 20 years. What,
I don't have gray hair, Dawn.
Oh, I know. Yeah, me neither. And what I got to losing. But anyway, why now, and what can you do?
Why now? Because I'm retired and I can. I worked full-time for 35 years, and I had a bucket list of things that I wanted to do, organizations that I wanted to join. And this helping Fairmont to regain its grandeur of past years is a passion to me. I want us to grow. I don't want us to just be the little town between Clarksburg and Morgantown. I want us to be the place everybody wants to go. I love Fairmont.
Marcel,
Like delegating.
I think it's on there. What do you think is the biggest issue that is not currently being addressed by the city, and specifically, how would you address that issue?
I believe that our city has addressed issues in a very responsible manner. I believe when they become aware of issues, they do address it and try to solve those problems. If there are problems that I'm not aware of, I'd like to know what they are. If you can name a problem to me that you see that the city hasn't addressed, I would love to know, and I would be able to answer that question. But I'm very proud of our city, of our leadership, and the way that they handle things in our town. I want to be a part of it.
Marcel, I know you've worked with City Council before, and you've worked with a lot of different groups and have heard a lot of people and helped in some different charitable organizations. What do you think is the most important issue facing Fairmont today?
I'm really concerned with drugs. I have grandchildren in the school system. I have family living here. I know that we need to work closer with the sheriff's office, federal authorities who can help us solve our problem. I know that we're not the only town facing this, and when I was a city council previously, I was the representative to the municipal league. And when I thought that we had problems, go to a municipal league meeting and you will find out all our towns are facing the same problem. But we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can go to other towns who are addressing the same issues and find out what they're doing to combat those problems.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcella.
Am I done?
Anybody, you guys have any other question?
One question.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last questioner was Mary Jo Thomas. All right, the second person that's running for the District 1 is Josh Rice. Josh?
Hello, everybody, and good evening. Thank you, Marcella, for leading the way. And I didn't have to take this at first. But my name is Joshua Rice. I have been a local here for 30 plus years. I'm here tonight with my wonderful wife, Sherry, my awesome son, Caleb, and an unknown visitor. My mother came this evening. I've been employed here by Alcan. As you guys know, Bud Newey today is Novellus for over approximately 6 years. I spent the first years of my high school career, a couple years at East Fairmont High School, and then due to relocation, I moved away to Dublin, Scioto, and went to school there in Dublin, Ohio. Also furthered my education and went for a few years to Fairmont State University. And some things that I enjoy has been, throughout my life, has been in Fairmont, has been working with the youth. I started out at my church working with the youth as a youth, not a youth pastor, but a youth leader under Tommy Barron, and have now moved forward, and I'm working with the Shriners organization, the children, the Shriners Hospital, at fundraising and stuff like that. And that's one of our mottos, as we say, man can stand so tall as when he stoops to help a child. Now, what I think I'd be a very qualified candidate in I'm being a long-time resident here. I have several life experiences that prepared me to be knowledgeable about certain issues in Fairmont. I'd like to apply these lessons to help make Fairmont friendly again, as I say, for the people in our city. I definitely grew up here in local schools and worked throughout here to raise a family, so I know what people go through living here in Fairmont.
All right, the first question will come from Mary Jo Thomas.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming this evening.
Yes, ma'am.
And we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
What is, in your mind, the main issue facing Fairmont City government now?
Well, it is drugs. Drugs and alcohol definitely is a big thing here in Fairmont, like any other city. With the recovery process even too, I don't see a lot of recovery facilities for these kids as well as adults. We get on, these people are, they get on drugs and there's really no way for them to, or where for them to go to recover, to rehab themselves to get off, so they just stay there. And it's sad. It's a real sad thing.
Matt?
Mr. Rice, you indicated that you wanted to make Fairmont friendly again. How exactly, what steps do you think you could take as a council member to make Fairmont friendlier?
Well, what I mean by that, it's in my thing. I noticed that if it seems to me as our city has started to come apart into different issues that have come up here within the past year, I've noticed, and I think as a whole of the city, we all need to pull together to make it work. I know there's some certain issues going on right now that are, kind of complicated to go about, and I think, to come together and be friendly and to be a city, that's what we need to be. We used to be the friendly city, but I don't think we're that.
Thank you.
John?
Good evening. Do you have any idea about what you would do to grow the city of Fairmont? Fairmont hasn't grown in decades.
Correct. I agree.
Do you have a plan for that?
Well, my plan, I don't know whether it would something that's going to work or not, but I'll tell you what, living over in the district I live in, one of the reasons that I was wanting to do this was because, over at the Owens place, it hadn't developed yet. So all in all, it has just now started developing, and I think to make us grow, that's what we're going to need. We're going to need to bring more people in and we're going to have some higher paying jobs. And I know we have done some things with like the new Colosesnos building and the stuff like that that created jobs, but in the sheets. But we're creating minimum wage jobs. I think we need to create jobs that are going to bring people to work here and to make the city grow.
Thank you, Josh. And let's have Royce.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Rice.
Yes, ma'am.
What partnerships or alliances would you like to see fostered within the city that don't currently exist?
Well, I'm not too sure about that question. I don't want to give you the wrong answer about that, but a partnership is definitely between the people. I mean, that I'd like to see everybody, combine together and join together, just like, we have an ordinance coming up, and I'm sure nobody wants to talk about that, but, when people are set and vote to that, and I hope that we can find an equal thing between, our freedom of religion and our, human rights here in Fairmont.
Thank you, Josh. Harry?
How do you plan on making the community better for Fairmont's youth?
What was that?
How do you plan on making the community better for Fairmont's youth?
Well, the youth is definitely, like I said, I've worked with the youth through the schooling or through the church, and I'm working with them now through the Shriners Children's Hospital. But they need a place where they can go. I mean, I've always looked at, when I was working in the youth, the old Shop and Save over by the Big Lots place. I've always wanted to open up that for the youth, but I think we definitely need to get something for the youth to get them off the streets and, give them somewhere to go.
Any other questions from the panel? Thank you, Josh, very much.
Thank you.
And our third candidate is Susan McCullum. Give Susan a minute to get up here. And we'll start with Don Downs on this one.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to share with you this evening. I consider it both a privilege and a solemn duty to run for Fairmont City Council. The words I use to describe myself are honest, responsible, and dependable. My desire is to give back to the great citizens of the great city of Fairmont, and that's why my slogan is Susan for Fairmont. I'm a 36-year employee of West Virginia University with a career path that includes having been an analyst, a campus planner, and currently the leasing agent. My experience includes land use and facilities planning, lease and agreement negotiation and contracting, property management, regulatory interpretation and adherence, and an understanding of construction, engineering, architecture, design, rights of ways, easements, and other real estate matters. I currently manage 114 commercial property sites with an annual budget of over $9 million. And I'm successful in doing this because I think outside the box. I work with everyone to find consensus, and I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm blessed to come from a family who modeled service to others. Because my mother was the borough secretary, which is a position comparable to city clerk, I've been around city government all of my life. I even held an after-school job of cleaning the city council chambers. I often accompany my mother to the council meetings, observing the procedures and learning of the affairs that the city undertakes while understanding the impact on its citizens. I am keenly aware that the city government should manage from an unbiased position, considering only what's at best for the citizens. I believe that every issue brought to council requires the answer to 3 questions. Number 1, who benefits from this? And the answer needs to be the citizens. Number 2, who's negatively impacted by this? And what safeguards can we put in place? And number 3, how do we fund this? A vote for me will be for a servant who brings ethics, compassion, knowledge, and mostly common sense with respect for all citizens.
The city of Fairmont seems to have problems with distressed properties and zoning, all types of things involving property, and that's what you are telling us your expertise is. Have you thought about what you could do for the city of Fairmont in that area?
I have, and I appreciate that question. In the hub of the office that I work in, WVU Real Estate, is where all the public-private partnerships are going on that WVU has entered into. And if you're not familiar with those, it's a means of being able to take a public organization such as the city and partner with a private private company, and you do that through competitive bid, and you together can build infrastructure and together can build new properties. I love seeing that all the dilapidated houses have been going down, and I love the green space that's been created, but I'm excited to move that forward to the next step, which is new development, new business, new jobs coming into the city.
What would you say is the greatest untapped, I suppose, revenue resource to fund such projects? Or do you plan the partnerships?
The partnerships is definitely.
But what I'm asking is from the city's perspective, they're going to have to bring some type of revenue source, or I suppose tax incentive to create that partnership. Would you propose? How would you propose those funds be generated?
Well, the funds don't always have to be generated up front. In fact, the public-private partnerships puts the onus onto the private portion. They're the ones who are getting the loans. They're the ones who are undertaking the construction. And then the user then pays that back over time. It's like getting a mortgage rather than having to put forth all the money up front. So that's one way, clearly, and that's the advantage of doing a public-private partnership. But also, you could consider what kind of businesses would go into those properties, or what kind of mixed use could occur within those properties that might generate revenue. Thanks. Thank you.
Again, the question would be to you, as to the others, what do you think the main issue facing the city of Fairmont is now?
As I'm traveling around and talking to various people about what would you want to see, what are you not receiving, what are the problems you perceive we have, one of the biggest things I'm hearing consistently is that they don't feel that the city council is governing from a position of unbiasedness. They feel that there is an agenda in place, potentially on various projects. And I think it's very important, again, going back to my childhood and seeing my mother involved in the politics of the local city. Servants have to serve from a position of unbiased. You have to look at what's in the best interest of all the citizens of the city. Thank you.
What is the impact you hope to have as a member of City Council?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
What is the impact you hope to have as a member of City Council?
What is the impact I hope to have? I hope to bring the knowledge and experience I've had in my career to help with the various places. I also hope to bring the servant attitude that I was raised with, that my parents modeled for me, and I hope to bring that to anyone who has a need. I'm a representative, and I need to represent the people.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. What unique opportunities do you see for the city of Fairmont?
Well, again, I don't mean to harp back on the same thing, but again, we're entering a time where we need to look at the redevelopment. How can we bring businesses back into the city? I agree with Mr. Rice when he said we need to bring good jobs back here. This town has been known for its manufacturing, for its industry. Maybe there's an untapped new resource, a new place for Fairmont. I think we also need to look at how we're strategically located between Morgantown and Clarksburg and see what uniqueness we can bring, what things we can maybe partner with, and to bring new things within the city.
Thank you, Susan. A lot of answers, a lot of thinking to be done. And now from District 3 candidates, we have two. The first one being Warren G. Harger. Okay, Mr. Harger, you're up.
Hello, my name is Warren Harger, as in Charger without the C. A little genealogy, if you say Harger, they're from Arizona. So a little bit of differences in there. I'm happy to be currently on the City Council as an appointed member. I feel that's already in my favor, that I'm abreast of what's going on, the current agenda, and what's being done about it. I'm also a housing manager of, I still call it the Fairmont Hotel, but it's been rehabbed into senior living. But it is a multi-million-dollar asset, and we have to interact with a variety of federal and state agencies in that capacity. So I have that interagency get-along. I live in Fairmont. I love Fairmont. I see that potential. I'm a little bit offended when they say we're not a friendly city. But I can understand the people that have that opinion, and yes, that needs to be worked on. So given all the above, I'm also a little bit trained in other areas. I'm an honorably discharged veteran. I spent most of my time in the Mediterranean and at various places up and down the East Coast. So I'm very happy to be at anchor here in Fairmont.
Thank you for being here. How do you plan on helping move Fairmont forward for future generations?
To participate in all things, we do have that comprehensive plan coming out. That's a 10-year plan to move along with that. Now, if anybody brings anything to the council, those things need forwarded. We recently had somebody before council talking about energy savings and windmills in the city. And as far as I know, the Code Department is working on that, but we need to move in energy conservation directions as well. So we need to take advantage of new technology. That's one of the ways we can improve.
What would you consider to be Fairmont's greatest asset and its greatest challenge?
Oh, its greatest asset is its history and its people. We have the town itself has its own heartbeat. Despite we are multicultural, and that shows. I feel we're growing together. I know there's conflict, there's differences of opinion, but that's also growing pains. So that is our greatest asset, that we are a growing and developing people. Our greatest challenge will be to achieve the goals we have before us.
You stated that there may be a problem with the citizens and the administration of Fairmont, but you didn't necessarily agree. From the inside, what can you tell us about that?
What kind of answer do you want? I mean, that's pretty broad. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things going on, and I'm a pedestrian. I guess you might say that's my strength. I'll be supportive of making things pedestrian friendly. I would like to see that, if anybody's heard of the Pierpont Memorial Park, going where the old state building is at. I'm very excited about that. I hope it becomes manifest. I would like to see it. That would draw a lot of things into the downtown area. So when we say not so friendly and we need to be friendly again, I'm really not clear on that, because I feel pretty friendly when I'm out on the streets.
All right. I guess I can't really work this mic very well, but so how long have you been on council now?
Oh, about 6-7 months since this past March, yes.
Okay, well, and I think there's actually been a couple of vacancies in this seat. Is that correct?
Seems to be, but I've had a lot of good luck with
it. Yeah, no, I know, I got you. I guess my question would be, After the 2010 census, the city council districts in Fairmont have never been changed. After the 2020 census, would you be in favor of changing those districts? At this point, the population, especially in your district, I believe, with the connector, it's not been accounted for. So my question is, would you support redrawing the districts, even if that meant that it may put you against a fellow council member in an election?
Well, that's always possible, and yes, for the good of the whole, yes, I would be supportive of that if it was a positive thing. So as long as it's a positive, yes. And unbeknownst to you, that's forthcoming. We already have in-house workings to cooperate, and what I mean by in-house amongst council, to cooperate with that 2020 census and to be encouraging in our districts to participate in that census. And then once the results are known, decisions will have to be made.
I'm sure you know what question I'm going to ask. And you mentioned we had some challenges. But the major issue that you would say is facing Fairmont and ways that you might address that or help as a councilman?
Well, it'd be awareness. We have a lot of good things going on. We need to put out what our assets are to draw in that community. Some people have touched on the drug problem. That is multi-layered. I would like to see many agendas to address that, which is what I think it will take, is a cooperative effort. We have law enforcement that's out there on the front lines of it, and they're making their apprehensions and drug interdictions. Then we should have the rehab hospitals to do their part with people who are addicts, and we should also have the medical community participating in restricting those drugs and helping us to control them on the streets. Thank you.
I too would like to see the Pierpont Memorial Park. All right, now thank you very much. And the next person from District 3 is David Kennedy. I wish I could do a song and dance for you in a minute, but I'd rather wait and do that. Harry, you want to begin this? Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is David Kennedy. I'm running for the office of City Council on District 3. District 3. I really would appreciate your vote. For 40 years, I've been a Democrat. I'm a different kind of Democrat. I'm a Jack Kennedy Democrat. I'm pro-life. I'm pro-gun, pro-business, pro-church, pro-union, pro-family, and pro-Fairmont. I believe there's a lot that can be done in this beautiful city. It's an incredibly beautiful city. We have new buildings and old buildings. I've been thinking back there, what are some of our strengths? The beauty of the water, the beauty of the highways, the new buildings, the old buildings that really need to be rehabbed and turned into lofts, high-income lofts where our lawyers might want to live. I had the opportunity to live in Portland, Oregon. It's a city of rivers, too, a beautiful city on the West Coast. Most of its highways are hung up in the air. It's gorgeous to travel, and the only thing you see is sky above you. If we have a problem here that needs to be addressed, it's social infrastructure. We've lost our families, we've lost our churches, we've lost so much in our schools that need to be looked at and addressed and re-examined again. And I, as a candidate, will be one of those candidates that look forward to a transition from the city manager type of system back to a mayoral system. That's what I want to do the most. Thank you very much.
How do you plan on encouraging local businesses to open up in Fairmont?
Little businesses. Boy, oh boy. To have businesses, and I ran a business for 18 years, okay? It's one of the most difficult things a person can ever imagine, because every Friday you have to make that payroll. You have to keep your employees happy. To have businesses, you have to have a community. And that's why I mentioned all those beautiful old buildings that we have. If they could be rehabbed into living quarters, lofts like you have in other big cities, that is a key, because the people that rent them aren't going to pay $600 a month to live there. They're going to pay $1,000 or more. That is a hidden treasure in this town.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. How would you promote Fairmont as a diverse and welcoming community?
This area is on the threshold of incredible wealth. It's in a very fast-paced transition because of Morgantown. What we really need to do is partner with the thought processes and people in those towns. I think of Kim Hawes in Bridgeport, tremendous manager, and he's taken that town and turned it into just a gem. We need to key with the thoughts that they have. We need to pirate their thinking.
What frustrations did you have that caused you to run for office, and what can you do about it?
I'm glad you asked that question, Mr. Downs. I was very, very upset when our citizens were physically thrown out of their village about this time last year. I'm talking about the homeless encampment along the river. American citizens, veterans, who basically had no rights. There was no protection for them. Many of them had been there for 20 years. There was no allowance for them. I honestly think that there's developmental land in the city of Fairmont where a homeless village could be built, and it wouldn't cost a lot of money to do that. They're doing this in other forward-thinking cities. And it's time for us to look at this issue in a positive way. I really don't care to see our homeless people sitting on the thresholds of our buildings.
Mr. Kennedy, you indicated that you support a strong mayor system, and you also mentioned City Manager Halls in
Yes.
Bridgeport, which they have the same form of government as Fairmont. Do you believe that, I guess, why do you believe that a strong mayor system would be better? Do you think, and as a follow-up, do you believe that you would still have the same expertise that you get with the city manager form of government?
I'm really glad you asked that question. And here's my answer. All of those city managers are the same. They all come out of the same tin can. I think it's ran its course for Fairmont. I think we have people here that are more than capable of leading this town into the next 20 or 30 years. Kim Hawes is very, very successful. What I was talking about was meeting with them, getting their ideas, pirating what they're doing successfully. We're not doing that. And we need to be in that process of doing that.
Mary Jo?
If you were elected, what would be the first thing you would address or ask to be addressed as a member of council?
The first thing that I would address, and I made up my list of ideas. I think the grant money is not used 100% wisely. I think we need to have seminars where the small towns can come in and this grant money that's only going to be here for 6 years. After President Trump is gone, we won't get a dime. But the window of opportunity is here to capture this grant money, and we need to bring it in here from every single direction. That's the only way we're going to have economic development and build this town. It takes dollars, and it can't be done on the backs of the people. It has to be brought in from the federal level.
Thank you very much. Good to see you. Now, if we can move on to District 5, we have several candidates, and the first one would be David Ice. So if David Ice is here, or his representative. David? Okay. The next person is Hosea Batten.
Thank you, and thank you for hosting this event. I'm Josiah Batten. I'm running for City Council, and I ask for your vote. I ask for your vote for positive youth development. Positive youth development is a strengths-based collaborative approach that seeks to have young people and adults build relationships and work together to help set a healthy path forward in the lives of our youth. Our commitment to our youth is not simply a commitment to the future, it is our commitment to today. To that end, I propose the creation of a Fairmont Youth Advisory Board to give youth direct input into the life of the city and to give adults and community leaders in our city input into the life of our youth. I'm running for economic growth, as has been mentioned many times already. West Virginia is in the middle of an economic recovery, and we're doing well, but we have a long way to go, and we have to continue moving forward, moving in the right direction. We have to make the decisions today that are going to benefit our city, not just 1 year or 2 years down the road, but 15 or 20 years when our kids are looking for jobs, graduating college. I'm also running for individual liberty. Our rights belong to us in virtue of who we are as human beings. They don't belong to us in virtue of any other characteristic. They don't belong to us in virtue of the government giving them to us. The government has a positive duty to protect our rights and a negative duty to avoid infringing upon our rights, but it does not give us our rights. I'm Josiah Batten, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you. Mary Jo, please.
And what do you feel is the most important issue that's facing the city, and how would you suggest dealing with that?
I think the most important issue facing the city is creating an atmosphere where our youth can graduate from our high schools, graduate from our university, and continue to live here and have jobs here. We talk about economic development. We have to have people. You can't have economic development when you have population decline, and you can't have population growth when all the people that are born here move away when they graduate. So I propose positive youth development as the way to address keeping our youth here and helping them set a healthy trajectory forward for their life, creating partnerships between economic leaders, business owners, educational leaders, political leaders, building those collaborations, those partnerships, so that youth feel that we are investing our best in them and they have a clear path forward once they have graduated high school, once they have graduated college.
Mr. Batten, do you believe that there are issues other than economic opportunities as to why young, educated youth that are raised here and graduate here, that they're moving away?
I believe there absolutely are. We have a social environment. People often say West Virginia's 50th in every category, and that's not true. In 2017, we had the highest GDP growth of any state in the country. We were first in a very positive category. But that message doesn't necessarily sink in immediately. People still have a mentality that we are always behind, that we're last, and it's a matter of changing that social context that makes youth feel like if they stay in Fairmont, they're doing something inferior, that they have better opportunities they could pursue somewhere else.
Thank you.
Mr. Batten, what would you do to encourage and promote the Fairmont State/Pierpont merge with the city of Fairmont that isn't probably very successful so far?
Well, I think it's a matter of anytime you have a merger, one of the most difficult things is determining what are the goals, what is the objective. And if you don't have a clear objective, you can't achieve the objective. So I'd say we have to clearly define what is it we're attempting to accomplish with this in the first place. Fairmont State, Pierpont Community, and Technical College educational institutions are one of the best resources a city can have in terms of bringing students here, bringing in revenue, creating rent revenue, creating business for our local businesses. Students come here and, frankly, they spend money. And if that's money coming from other towns, from other nations, that's going to benefit our businesses.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. What have you done in preparation to become elected as a member of City Council?
For the past 10 years, I have taught city government for the American Legion Mountaineer Boys State program. I've worked with city officials, including Matt and Ron Justice, the former mayor of Morgantown. I've helped start Marion County PART, a youth prevention coalition inside of Marion County that aims to prevent the use and abuse of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. I've formed relationships with people throughout the state through West Virginia SAD in order to continue to address issues for our youth. And I pursued my education here, I've pursued my work here, and I've continued to live here. My education, I earned a degree in business from Fairmont State University, and I work at Stepping Stone in a human services field. But I work here because I believe in our people, because I believe in our community, and I believe we have to stay and contribute back to the city that gave us so much.
What do you think is Fairmont's biggest strength, and how do you plan on using that to better the city?
I think many people have already said Fairmont's biggest strength is its people. I'll give its second biggest strength, and that's probably our natural beauty, our location. We're next to virtually everything. If you're in Clarksburg and you want to go to Morgantown, that's a little bit more of a journey than if you're in Fairmont and you want to go to Clarksburg or Morgantown or Grafton. We have the capacity to capitalize on our location, to capitalize on our natural beauty in Fairmont, in Marion County, to increase tourism, to increase drawing people from other places here. We have state parks in Marion County. Valley Falls is as beautiful a state park as any. Prickett's Fort is as beautiful a state park as any. We can benefit from that. We can utilize that if we have the commitment and the will to do so.
The next candidate would be Chuck Warner. Chuck Warner. Chuck Warner doesn't seem to be here, so we'll go to Victor Casella. Victor Casella. Okay, Charles Chuck Hilberry. Here comes Charles.
Good evening. I'm Charles Chuck Hilberry, and I'm standing for office for the 5th District. First off, I want to thank those who supported my campaign in 2010 and 2014, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to those who've never heard me share my views before in standing for public office. I'm from Fairmont, grew up here, and except for the time I was in the Army Reserve for 14 years, I was called up twice after 9/11 and served stateside. But besides that, I've lived in the community. I've been around city government, like Houston and also Marcella. We were in the first class they sent through the Fairmont 101 course. And I said, I kind of grew up around the city. My mom worked for the city for 35 years in the water department and the finance departments. That was one of the things with Fairmont 101, because when they asked, what do you want to learn? It's like, I want to learn what's changed since Mom retired in the late 1980s. I've been in the Department of Justice for 21 years. In the last 18 years, I've been in a federal law enforcement position. And my background in the military, I was an MP, and I specialized in force protection, physical security. Why I'm running, I'm a conservative, and I firmly believe in the idea of limited government. And I think we need to focus on the things that government needs to do, not what government can do. And without reiterating a lot of the comments made by the other candidates, you know, council's gotten involved in a lot of things, but I think it's gotten away from the basic mandate that the council runs the city in the charter. And I think we've ceded that to the city manager. And I think that the city has basically, whether it's in fact or whether it's in perception, that we've built a negative image. We've driven away private industry. Grant money is wonderful. It's a stimulus, but it's not grant money till the next grant comes along. And we need to look, in my opinion, as a primary focus of what we can do to stimulate the private sector, because they are who creates jobs and they are who pay taxes to create revenue for government.
How do you plan on restoring downtown Fairmont to what it once was decades ago?
Well, one of the biggest things, and I've heard this for years, is everything that's been done in Fairmont, the connector, all of the infrastructure projects is on pushing people into downtown Fairmont. The one thing that has been completely forgotten about is why downtown Fairmont functioned in the way it did, which, if for those of you who are not familiar, right behind the Union Mission, that was the railhead when we had passenger rail traffic. And that was the primary means of entry into the city, because the interstate didn't open until the late 70s. Passenger rail service stopped roughly 40 years ago, but we are still pushing people into downtown Fairmont, and there's no train station, which, as said, the Fairmont Hotel was right across the street from the main entry point of the city. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for
Good evening.
being here. Glad to hear that you're a graduate of Fairmont 101. What other unique opportunities do you see that could be developed within the city of Fairmont?
Anything specific, whether recreational, economic, or just broad question?
Broad question.
Okay. I definitely think we have to make Fairmont attractive to private industry. Look north, look south. We have Morgantown, we have Bridgeport. One of the things, and yes, I think people are always the key asset in any organization. But look at I-79, it's a main corridor. Step away and let's presume if something happened to Interstate 79 that it was closed northbound and southbound long term. And I'm not going to get into that rebuild project through Kingmont. If I-79 is closed, the main heavy hauling route goes out to Zanesville, Ohio to the west and goes to Hagerstown, Maryland to the east on I-81 and I-77. We are a filtering corridor all the way from Toronto, Canada, for people going to the southeast, the snowbirds coming in and out, plus traffic through the mid-Atlantic states. The fact we're 80 miles from Pittsburgh, we're 170 miles roughly from D.C., and also from the Charlotte area to the south.
The population of Fairmont is decreasing. The budget is increasing. Do you have any plan for that?
We've got to start saying no, first of all, first and foremost. So many times you see city council votes, 9-0, 8-1. We've got to have open and honest debates, and we've got to talk about things that I think are things that people probably don't want to hear. What's good and what's bad and what needs fixed. If what worked, we wouldn't all be standing up here as candidates for office with a long list of complaints and concerns that we've heard from our friends and neighbors and saying we need to fix things. You know, if it doesn't work, you have to try something different. I looked it up. Average age in Fairmont's 34. Median household income is $38,000. The well is but so deep. And government cannot be the source of relief for every concern in the community. That's like with housing, as you talked earlier. How many church groups, community groups, youth groups that want service projects, and I brought this up in 2014, getting them to volunteer for cleanup of senior properties that maybe they'd help, but they cannot afford to do what we'd like them to do for our community.
What specific expenditure in the city's budget do you believe could be cut without losing services?
Well, I think we've had a lot of cart before the horse and the next cart behind. Look at the water project. I think it was kind of lowballed when it got into the real money and then the $4 million in upgrades. I think we're not looking at it as a business. We're looking at this is a good idea. Let's throw money at it and then figure out what we're going to do. And a good example, like with economic development, is Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia. And a perfect example in Fairmont is how the idea came and died for the old Moose building, also known as the YWCA. Rather than throwing money into something and then figuring out who wants to occupy a space that we've rehabilitated, SCAD works with the Chamber of Commerce. They get prospective businesses and they develop a historic template. And they say, okay, you want to open a barber shop and our timeline is 1915. They build to suit that barber shop that looks like 1915 barber shop while meeting modern code. I think we're doing things backwards and spending money and then figuring out what we're going to do with what we bought.
Number one issue facing the city and what you think we can do.
Number one issue on the city, one, it's income, and I mean that in terms of revenue. I don't believe in increasing taxes and fees. I believe the way you increase revenue is by decreasing it and creating a climate that businesses want to come here. Businesses don't create jobs to hire people. They hire people to perform good services and provide goods that the demand exists at a price that they can be profitable. Until we look at that and we sell ourselves that this is a place to come here and do business. And I will say the most important thing I learned in college, I didn't learn in college. I learned from a gentleman in town that had a business that I worked for. And he said, business is business, money is money. The other side of the spear is the drug problem. I don't quite agree with the totality of how they've gone about it with the rental property. I think there's federal asset forfeiture laws that we can get into issues like that with drug houses because you're limiting yourself only to rentals, not to own property.
Thank you, Chuck. And next we have Houston Richardson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Houston Richardson. I am a long-term citizen of Fairmont. At this point in time, this is my third time trying to unseat the people that are in the 5th District. Our ideas about the growth of Fairmont, they differ. But in the meantime, I work for GE, work for FMC, give the Army 6.5 years of my life. I have a wife of 52 years. I got 2 grandsons. And a granddaughter, and that's the story of my life, and it's been a good one, and I like Fairmont.
And I know you know what question I'm going to ask,
Not really.
which is number one issue facing it and suggestions for help.
The number one issue that I see every day is the lack of jobs. When I have a job, I have pride in myself, and I got pride in the district, well, not necessarily, but the place where I live. If I got a job, I will go downtown and spend money. And then the Joneses next door, well, look what he got. He got a new car, so I'm going to get one too. So me, that might inspire someone else to do something else too with their property.
Mr. Richardson, what would you say is Fairmont's the biggest missed opportunity at this point? I know that from my time on council, I know you've been very active in the community and have come to most of the meetings. What would you say is a missed opportunity, and how would you go about trying to seize that opportunity?
When developers wanted to develop housing for the influx of people from D.C., Virginia, Maryland, when we had students coming from Morgantown to try to find a place here to stay that was a little cheaper, when you got the bedroom community of Bridgeport wanting to come down here and find something a little cheaper, we didn't have any developers to offer anything. So it went by the wayside. And we didn't try to entice anyone in to build something that was nice, affordable, and would draw others in after they saw the first input that we put in our efforts to bring people here.
Thank you.
Your district has probably gone through as many, if not more, changes than any other district. What needs to happen in your district to make it better?
I'm glad you saw the changes because I haven't. And I've been there for 30 years. Now, we lost all of Bellevue. We lost all of Hills and the Parkette and Hex and things of that nature. Nothing came in that brought a lot of people in. Yes, there's ages and whatever, that type of business. It came, but nothing else that was substantial. How do we get them back? There has to be a clear and precise view of what you want to do. You said redo Fairmont, redo my area, whatever, but you got to be able to communicate that to you have to be able to communicate that to the masses in the area and in the town. They said, hey, I got a new store coming in. How many people will it employ? Get the store in here and say, I'm employing 30 people. Base pay $15 an hour. Okay, that rejuvenates that one spot. Then that leads to something else and something else. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Richardson. Can you tell us how you've been volunteering or serving in our community?
My wife will tell you I'm not home too much. I started with the toy drive. I'm on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Bad Building Commission, when we had it, I was the one that still would like to be on. I'd like to revamp it, I'd like to do it. I still go to city council meetings. If you call, I'm usually there. Okay?
What are your major goals if you were elected?
Really, I'm not satisfied with the form of government we have. I don't think it services the needs of all the people. But in the same sense, you got to give me something, you got to show me something better that is working. We have a lot of areas in this town that are dilapidated, but we won't take that bold step to remove those things. And when I say that, I might go against the law, but you know, those structures would come down and we would see each other in court. Clarksburg did it. Why can't we do it?
You want to take a break now? Okay, well, let's take about a 15-minute break, 20-minute, and come back at what time, Dee Dee? What do you have so I can announce that? Come back about 7 o'clock, and we'll continue. Okay. Work this man puts in to TV 19. It is amazing how much time and effort and thought that Dee Dee puts into his productions. And I, for one, have always appreciated TV 19, and I'm sure I will in the future. Okay, back to District 5. We have one more person in District 5 to speak, and that is Barry Bledsoe.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Barry Bledsoe. I'm running for City Council in District 5. I appreciate your vote. I'm running for City Council because I care. This is my town. You know, there's a lot of places that I like to visit. I like Georgia. I like the Carolinas. I like Virginia. And we vacation there. And sometimes I think, you know, I wouldn't mind living here. But as soon as that thought enters my mind, my next thought is, you know what? I would be so homesick. This is my town and I care. And I want Fairmont to be the friendly city. I think our people are friendly, but I fear that our city government is not as friendly as it could be to the citizens and to businesses. And I think that's one of the reasons businesses don't come here. When a business wants to come or a business wants to grow or make changes, we need to be welcoming to them, not be part of the roadblock. We need to say to that business, what do you need? What can we do to help? Oh, that's a problem. How can we help? How can we work together to overcome this? Not just say, well, you can't do that because there's a rule that says you can't. Well, maybe we need to change that rule. Because I want to see trucks coming down that gateway with construction materials on them, coming into Fairmont, into the city, to provide the jobs that'll keep our people here. Bridgeport and Clarksburg are bursting at the seams. Morgantown is bursting at the seams. And we've got the same things they've got. We've got navigable river, we've got interstate, we've got rail, we've got universities, we've got hospitals. So why does Fairmont's population continue to decrease? I can only think it could be the politics. So maybe we need to change the politics and be more welcoming as a city and not, we need to communicate with people, not communicate at them. When there's a problem, we need to say, what can we do to work together? Well, how can we work with the Marion County Commission? How can we work with other agencies that are outside the city to help this whole area grow and benefit Fairmont?
Our
What is the impact you hope to have as a member of City Council?
Truthfully, I want to see things change. I don't think we can keep doing it the way we are. And there's probably a number of things we need to change. A lot of things that I don't even know and wouldn't know until I would get elected and see the inner workings from that position. But I think we need to do it different. I think our city council needs to be more a part of the solutions and not just receive something from the city government and say, okay, well, we're going to vote yes or no. Maybe we need to bring those ideas.
Thank you for being here. What partnerships or alliances would you like to see fostered that are not currently in place?
Truthfully, I'd like to see us work better with the Marion County Commission. I know that the city and the county commission have worked on projects in the past, but I don't believe that cooperation is there now. And I think the county and the city working together could do things that we can only dream of now. The county has resources. They've got great minds. The city has resources. We've got great minds. Put the two together and see what we can do. And I think we would better Marion County and Fairmont as a whole.
Barry, the population is decreasing. The taxes, cost of government is increasing. There has to be some sort of a way of planning of attacking that. Do you have a plan to attack that problem?
There's only 3 ways to bring in money. Grants, which are limited, digging deeper into the pockets of the people who live here and the businesses who live here, and that's hard, or providing new revenue by bringing in more business. That's what we need to do. Bring in the business, which brings the jobs and brings the people who are buying gas and buying groceries and buying the things to build homes and bring that in, and the revenue will come. And I believe we need to stop building things. It only worked once in a movie. You build it, they'll come. It only worked once. We need to stop putting millions and millions of dollars into things, hoping they'll come. We need to have a plan first, and then see where we can best use our dollars.
Mr. Bledsoe, to follow up on that point, what would you say that has been built that for millions and millions of dollars that isn't of use?
I won't say it's not of use. The gateway into Fairmont I'm glad it's there. But one of the big promotions for the gateway was what it would do to revitalize the downtown, and it hasn't. So that's what I'm talking about. We need to stop doing this build it, and they'll come. Again, I'm not against the gateway. I use it many times every day. But it has not helped Fairmont downtown. I can't see a single business that came in because we have that multi-million-dollar gateway coming into Fairmont.
I know. I'm sure you know what question I'm going to ask, and it's, I think, a very important one. What do you think the major issue is facing the city, and what can you, as a council member, if elected, do to help address that issue?
I think we have 2 issues, and I hope you'll mind me mentioning 2. One has been mentioned many times, it's the drug issue. And I'm a paramedic, and I see it every day. You would not believe. I've been in EMS for 37 years this month. And I can tell you for 20 years, I didn't go on an overdose. Now we go on multiple overdoses every day. And I'm telling you, we see these mothers passed out, unconscious, on the porch with the 2-year-old running around the street with a diaper hadn't been changed in 2 days. We've got, and I don't have the answer. I absolutely don't. We've got to figure it out. The second thing, and I've already briefly touched on it, is we need to be more friendly. Somebody else mentioned the fact that, we threw a bunch of homeless people out of the woods where they were hidden from the public. They weren't bothering a soul. And now where are they? They're in the doorways and on the steps on Monroe Street. That's just geography. We should never have taken them out of where they were comfortable and where they wanted to be unless we had a home to put them into, and then we turned around and tried to blame the man who does everything he can do every day to help the homeless.
Okay, that's the last of District 5 candidates, since somebody has shown up that wasn't here before, and I didn't see anybody come in. So we'll go to District 8, I'm sorry, and we'll begin with Mayor Tom Manella. Mayor?
I would like to thank all of the entities that sponsored this forum. I would mention them, but I'm sure I would forget somebody, so I appreciate that very much. I am Tom Manella, and I am presently on City Council in the 8th District. I was born here, I went to school here. I left after WVU, lived in a couple little towns around Fairmont, but in 1985 I came back. And I've been here ever since, and I hope the only way I leave is feet first. So, and I hope that's not for a while. But I've been on City Council twice. I've had 2 stints. I served from '98 to 2006, and then I was elected again 4 years ago. So I'm attempting to get reelected for probably the last time. But in the first time I was on council, I was trying to think some of the accomplishments. We did come up with, council at that time established an urban renewal. And although it hasn't been used that much, it is a tool that's out there that will help with dilapidated buildings at some point. And the second thing we did was we established a stormwater utility. You all pay $3 or $4 a month. The money goes into a side fund. There's $400,000 or $500,000 in that fund, and for people who have a problem with stormwater, they have done numerous projects to help people with flooded basements and things like that. This council I serve with now, probably the biggest accomplishment we've had so far is addressing dilapidated and distressed buildings. We've been tearing them down in groups of 7 or 8 or 10. And another thing we did, and I don't know if you get credit for what you prevent, but we prevented our firemen's and policemen's pension plans from going broke with a 1% sales tax. So that's something that wouldn't be felt probably for another 10 years, but that's something that you all shouldn't have to worry about now. Thank you.
Any more?
No, done.
Mary Jo?
Same question, Mayor, Mr. Mayor. Main issue facing council at this time, there's a number of major issues, but the main issue, what would you say, and how council is addressing it?
Well, the universal issue is the drugs. If you all could see the police report that council people get that you all don't see, it would make you so sad and so sick. Like Barry mentioned, the amount of overdoses and the number of children that are involved. And another problem we have is the homeless situation. We don't know what to do about that. But I would also like to address things we can do as a council, which is build sidewalks, look to finish the rails to trails, and hopefully some riverfront development at some point. Maybe the rails to trails would prompt that. But those are the 3 things I think we can accomplish as City Council. The other 2, drugs and homeless, I don't know. Hopefully somebody will come up with a solution for that.
Mayor, we've heard some discussion tonight about Fairmont's form of government. What is your opinion as a mayor and a council manager form of government? Do you support keeping the current makeup, or would you support a strong mayor system?
I'm really glad you asked me that question. I want to use myself as an example. I've run 3 times, and I've been fortunate enough to get a lot of votes every time. But I can tell you this, I know my limitations, and I'm not qualified to be the city manager of this or any other city. I've been fairly successful at business, but one of my problems is I always want to make friends with my employees. That's a big mistake. You can't discipline them. And, it wouldn't work for me. I couldn't negotiate union contracts. I couldn't get up in front of people and talk about economic development. So I'm not putting myself down, but there have been, and you can think of some, mayors in the past who would be very inept at managing this city. So thanks for asking me that question. That'd be a big mistake. That'd be a big mistake to go back to that form of government.
Was that directed at me?
No, Were you qualified to be a city manager?
No.
All right.
I hope my question doesn't jeopardize any of my possible party invitations, so I'll try to make it. The first part, two-part question: what grade do you've been here? Been on here going on 12 years, different time. Give yourself a grade, A to F.
For the decisions I've made, or for my
whatever
input?
You think.
B plus. Have I made some mistakes? Sure.
What are we doing wrong in the city of Fairmont?
What are we doing wrong?
What are we doing wrong?
I don't know. If you look at the reason the city exists, especially in a rural state like West Virginia, is to provide services. And I think Fairmont provides pretty good services. If you get sick, the fire department is probably going to be there before the rescue squad because they're closer and they're trained paramedics. The water comes out of the spigots, the policemen, you don't know what they put up with. And, the city workers fix the pipes when they break. I don't know. I'm sure there's some things we do wrong, but the basic services are provided pretty well for the citizens of this city. And all the streets are paved now, thanks to the user fee.
Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Having served 2 different terms, what observation have you made about the citizens of Fairmont and their approach to local government?
I'm not on Facebook, and that's by design. And my wife tells me, she said, "Do you want to know what they're saying?" And I say, "No, not really," but she always tells me anyhow. And it seems like there's just a widespread distrust for city government. There's just very bizarre things said about certain people in city government. I just ran to make things better. And when you first get elected, you really fool yourself. You really think, boy, I'm great, I'm fantastic. But then if you're anybody that's anybody, after a few days, when that wears off, you just want to make things better. And that's usually the way it is with just about everybody I've served with. You just try to have some input to make the place a better place.
Where would you like to see Fairmont in 10 years?
I'd like to see a city with very walkable sidewalks on all the major streets, like Country Club Road, the lower part of Locust Avenue, Watson Hill, other places where people who don't have nice cars to drive around in need to walk, and they can do it safely. I'd like to see riverfront development. I'd really like to see that. I would like to see the population increase. I don't know if it will or not. Funny thing about Fairmont, the first time I was on city council, people talk about how bad business is here, but the B&O tax generated $3-point-something million a year. And now it generates $5-point-something million a year, and the rates haven't changed. They've been the same. So somebody is doing business. Are there big box stores here? No. But there's a lot of people doing business that are paying B&O tax, which I think is the biggest revenue generator in the city right now. That's it.
Mayor, I'm not on Facebook either, so, but my wife tells me everything that's going on. All right, from District 8, another candidate, Ricky Butler, coming from the back of the room.
Okay, 2 minutes. Well, I'm going to play off because Batten kind of took the words right out of my mouth of what I had prepared to say. Other than I do like how Clarksburg has come up with the Mayor's Youth Council. And I think that our city, I'm going to address the drug problem because I have buried 9 of my peers over the last 5 years, and I'm 36. So our city lacks stimulation, mentally and physically, I think. And that stimulation should belong, I'm nervous, to the actual residents of this city. Because where I have come from, I was poverty, low income. I don't have a fancy title. I'm just a stay-at-home mom. My oldest is 17, and I'm a mother of 4. So I would like them to stay here. And I could have moved on, but instead I went to college here. I have a museum degree, museum studies, and there isn't any jobs for that because most of that is volunteer or our tourism hasn't opened up or expanded enough. So, 1 minute. So playing off of that, I can see where sidewalks are nice. I can see where our economic issues within the city, that money is there. It just isn't being distributed properly. So I've sat in on council meetings for the last 3 years. I've written ordinances. I know our city charter. I know what home rule is. I know that we are on a pilot program. And there's a lot of opportunity for Fairmont on this I-79 corridor. So I think we're lacking that interest. Is that it?
You're doing fine.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. Since you mentioned home rule, can you talk a little bit about how it has benefited Fairmont?
I hadn't really seen, like I said, I'm just stepping in. I do know the processes and the procedures and the decision making. I've actually had a unique opportunity to be a part of that. However, we can expand that homeroom. Clarksburg just expanded the home rule. So I don't see where Fairmont has played onto it too much. Actually, I just had a conversation last week because I belong to West Virginia Women for Cannabis, and we're trying to work with home rule and bringing up that medical cannabis. We believe in a more humane approach to addiction, a human connection, rather than treating it as, I don't believe in exchanging needles or the Narcan, and I think that we actually have to grab these people and give them something to do. So I think our home rule could expand on that by bringing in, there's ways around everything. There's a loophole for everything, and I learned that by reading our city charter.
Well, hopefully your children will be going to college someday. What can Fairmont State and Pierpont do in partnering with Fairmont to make it better for your kids?
Fairmont State and, well, Pierpont more so than Fairmont State, they sponsor a lot of programs. They have the tutoring services, the music, they have their campus, their libraries all open up to us. I think it's a lack of promotion. I think a lot of people just don't know. Sometimes our town works on who you know basis for those opportunities, and that could be a generalized statement, but I understand that as to be true from where I come from. So for me, just to be even standing up here is a milestone for anyone, even in my family, and I have a very large family. So I think they could really expand if we would just promote that and go in and talk to them. I think there should be free after-school programs. And he's worrying me with the time. Yeah, like I think these buildings that we're tearing down, somebody, maybe the city should invest into making that a community center or a recreational center through Fairmont State.
Thank you. So You had mentioned.
I can hear you.
I'm sorry. You had.
Use your outside voice.
Is it working?
No, use your outside voice.
All right. So you had mentioned that you had drafted some ordinances.
Yeah.
I believe. I assume that those are probably important issues to you. Would you care to share what ordinances you had drafted?
The Human Rights Commission, I dug in and found that we had one in the 70s. I drafted it. Gomez went through it and did the strike through. And we presented it to council. We did it the way that you were supposed to, through the 3 readings. It was something else.
All right. Thank you. Got it working. Thank you.
Not working. You had mentioned early on about experience in family and friends with drugs. And I'm not presuming that that's what you think the main issue is, but what do you think the major issue is facing council? And if elected, how would you help address that issue?
I think there's all kinds of issues facing council. Each one of us tonight has said something different, but it almost sounds like we're all on the same page. I think community, we're a friendly city, but we've lacked that community basis. Maybe I wasn't around the time when downtown was vibrant and JFK came here and walked our streets. I wish I could have been. But I see those photographs and I can see we're a town of clans. I'm going to use that word. We have large families. We have deep roots here. And I think that to bring our community together would be like community policing. We've brought that up to council in one way or another. Bringing all these, like Barry had mentioned, the county and the city. I don't understand why there isn't a bridge there constantly or consistently between the 2 agencies. We're all working for the same goal, and that's the betterment of Fairmont and its people. And it almost seems like it's a select few that get the benefit from all of that.
Yes?
Oh, I'm sorry. What do you think is Fairmont's greatest strength, and how do you plan on using that?
I think our greatest strength is we're opinionated. And we do stand up and come out to speak, whether it's opposing something or agreeing in something. With any community, when tragedy strikes, we always come together, regardless of our differences. I just sat in a room full of Republicans for medical cannabis, so that was an experience for me, being an independent. And I was not going to speak on things like that, but addiction is the issue. And like I mentioned, I just lost my brother in March to addiction, and my cousin at 28 years old in 2013. We've actually thrown rallies at Pontine Park and promoting that humane alternative. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky, very much. That's the last candidate from District 8. The District 9 candidates will begin with Lionel Byrne. Lionel Byrne. Is there somebody to speak for Mr. Byrne? Okay. Doesn't look like Lionel Byrne is here. Gene Kisner.
I am Gene Kisner. Fairmont has been my home basically since February 14th, 1946. If you are satisfied with the city government as it is now, do not vote for me. After 30 years of the city manager form of government, let's give the people a chance to declare if they are satisfied with that or if they want to change to elected officials that answer directly to the voters. Let's put it on the ballot. An expert is somebody 100 miles from home with a briefcase. I personally am tired of outside experts telling us how to run our city. I would try to eliminate the expensive money-losing segment of city government, which is the parking authority and the city planner. Neither one of them have accomplished anything positive for this city. The money we save can go toward the police department and the fire departments. I will not accept any campaign contributions from anybody. I will not spend any money to campaign to get elected. If people want me in office, they can spread the word, they can make posters, they can hand out self-made handbills. That way, if I'm elected, it'll be because the people want to change, not because I put on the best dog and pony show. Therefore, I would have a mandate to make waves. Any pay that I would receive will go directly to the Union Rescue Mission or to the Salvation Army. Last night at the forum, I was extremely upset by a young college person on the panel who kept asking all of the candidates what Fairmont could do for them. I thought he should be asking, he came here, he should be asking what they can do for us to fit into the community.
Thank you. Who's got Terry, you got the mic. You go first.
How do you think we can increase the population?
That's a biological problem. You mean how can we retain the population?
Yeah, bring in more people.
We're not going to unless we change the environment around here. And the environment revolves around capitalism. If we don't have businesses, people will leave. If we have a system that consistently operates against business, then it won't happen.
Thank you for being here. You suggested that we do away with the city planner. What plan would you put in place to oversee our economic and future development for the city? Who's going to be in charge of that?
If it happens, it will happen. Capitalism takes care of itself. The city planner that we have had has done more to stifle business. And as a perfect example, one of the storefronts on Adams Street has a recessed doorway back in. The homeless people have now set up shop in that at night, and in the morning it's all filled with trash. Nothing against the homeless. They have no place else to go. But the owner of that building wanted to move the doorway out flush with the rest of the building. The city planner told him he had to get an architect, do a historical study, present renderings, all this to move a doorway to help Main Street. He wasn't going to benefit from it. We don't need a city planner.
You're kind of saying that the cart's before the horse.
Kind of.
So delve into that a little deeper of what you think the city is into, that they shouldn't be, and not into, that they should be, and those type of issues that probably you and I have some in common.
We waste more money than you and I can count with, unless we took several days to try and line it up. We need less pie in the sky, less one of these days, and more now. We need to take that money that is being spent on those dreams and spend them on police. You spend it on the police, it'll go a long way toward curbing this drug problem. If we spend it on fire department, then we are all safer. These are things that would prompt businesses to possibly come here. Not that in itself, but it will be an additive factor.
Mr. Kisner, would you, I guess I'm going to go back to your point about the city planner. Do you intend, would you be in favor of getting rid of the entire city code when it comes to building and, basically the entire building and zoning code?
Absolutely not. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. My goodness, just because we have somebody who is young pie in the sky and only knows book education rather than the practical world, that doesn't mean we destroy all of the codes. I was on several councils with this city over the years enforcing codes and variances and everything else. It's needed, but we don't need an expensive outsider telling us how the hell to run our town.
And my question will be, Gene, Mr. Kisner.
We go back too long. You can say Gene.
Gene will be okay. All right. You've alluded to a number of issues. What would you say is the number one problem, and if elected to council, what would be the steps you take to solve that problem?
The number one problem is pie in the sky and waste of money. And if I'm elected, I will do everything I can to get it on the ballot to let the people choose if they want to retain this type of government or if they want to go to something else, something like we used to have back in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. That's the problem. Let the people choose. Our major problem is we ain't getting a buck for a buck. We're lucky to get 15 cents for a buck.
Thank you, Gene. And next we have Donna Blood. And she's coming from way back in the back of the room, so let's give her a little bit of time to get here and catch her breath.
I'm going to read because I'm kind of nervous here too. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Donna Blood, and I came to the Friendly City 24 years ago with my husband, Peter, 4 kids, and my mother-in-law, who was in the early stages of Alzheimer's. So it was important for us to be near the hospital. We settled in a West Fairmont neighborhood near the high school, and it was a wonderful place to raise my kids. And we had the best neighbors. I went back to school at FSU and finished my psychology degree in 2003. I've been working in Fairmont as a social worker with children and families ever since, and it will remain my passion. 4 years ago, I moved to my new neighborhood in the Watson Hill area. Again, I do have the best neighbors. We're lucky to live in a small city with a hospital, university, 2 excellent high schools, and a downtown that continues to make progress in revitalization with stores, restaurants, businesses, and beautification projects like flower baskets and on the lampposts that are so beautiful. And it's little things like that that make a difference. As a city council member, I want to make sure that growth in our city continues, and we support big business and small business alike. Small business, after all, is the backbone of every community. Important as well is having a mutual working and supportive relationship between the City of Fairmont and Fairmont State College, and recognize the benefits of having a hospital in our community. I want our town to continue to live up to our humble but heartfelt motto, the Friendly City, a city that respects and treats all people equally, because that is a city that will attract big business with diverse workforces, as well as a mom and pop business with people who are looking for a great place to live and raise a family in a city they can call home. I love this town and I love its people. I believe in giving back, volunteering, and supporting our community, and I promise to do my best if I'm elected.
Donna, glad that you're a Fairmonter now. You weren't lucky enough to be born here, but you chose to come. So if you were elected to City Council, what would you see as the main issue facing City Council, and how would you go about addressing that?
Well, as a social worker, I work with families who are affected by the epidemic, the opioid epidemic every day. So this is a huge issue. Also homeless, many of you have mentioned, many of the people up here tonight have mentioned the same things. I think we need to look to other communities who have found ways to cope with these problems, be inventive. The opioid epidemic is all over the United States right now. And we need to work with police, we need to work with social workers, psychologists, we have to find an answer to this. Thank you.
Ms. Flood, what would you say with your work with the Child Advocacy Center? Is there anything that you've learned from that that would help you as a council person? And if so, how would you go about realizing that opportunity?
Well, again, I'd say 70% of the children we see now at our center. If you're not familiar with the center, we work with, we do interviews of abused children and then get them the services they need. And often those kids are going into foster care. So foster care, we need homes for these kids. It's just, we're sending them down south. They're miles and miles away from their hometown. We have to pull them out of schools and send them to places they've never been. So they've been traumatized once, now they're being traumatized again. I really think it is important. Well, the foster care system, we just have to get more foster parents. And coming from my job, that is just the hugest issue that we face.
I know the people that we've heard from recently, the people who own the business that takes care of the children out going toward East Fairmont. Ron Pierce's operation out there.
Yes.
Is the answer more of that?
That's a good program. They take kids in kids that don't go to school. They take kids that have drug problems. And so programs like that are huge. They're really comprehensive and help kids understand, learn responsibility, learn what it means they go to counselors. They, really can learn how to, there's many success stories coming out of those programs. And, I think they're extremely helpful. And with this epidemic, hopefully we're not going to need more of them. But I think Ron's particular place out there, their beds are always full.
Good evening, and thank you for being here.
Hi, Reese.
How would you promote Fairmont as a diverse and welcoming community?
We are the friendly city. We want people from all over. And I think, just in our name, getting the word out that we stand for equality, we stand for people. And I think, I'm not sure how we get the word out other than to walk the walk and set an example.
How do you plan on making the community better for Fairmont's youth?
Well, one way I do it is through my job. I think, that's my job, is to help kids in bad situations, to safe situations. But aside from that, I think we have great schools. We have great school programs, after-school programs. There's 4-H. We have a lot of